It has been an awful, bitter, and terrible 3 weeks into the Battle of Ypres. In the previous episode about the week of May 7th to May 13th, we covered the beginning of the Battle of Friesenberg Ridge, including the Second Battle of Ypres. We also covered the sinking of the Lusitania. However, this week, the war and the many battles included in it continue to complicate. This week's highlights included the Western Front, the Second Battle of Ypres, the French and their allies.
The Belgians advanced to Hethsausen Strait.
In the Eastern Front, the Battle of the Somme, between the Austro-Germans and the Russians. The Austro-Germans take Jaroslav, while the Russians take Colombia. Across the ocean, the naval and overseas operations of the U.S. sent a note to Germany on the Lusitania.
Germans sank the British ship RMS Lusitania on May 7th. This was considered to be a provocation of U.S. on Germany's part and started a large feud. President Wilson sent the first 4 diplomatic protests to Germany. The first was written by Wilson's Secretary of State, William Jennings Bryan. As stated in the note, in view of recent acts of the German authorities in violation of the American rights on the high seas, which culminated in the torpedoing and sinking of the British steamship Lusitania on May 7, 1915, by which over 100 American citizens lost their lives, it is clearly wise and desirable that the government of the United States and the Imperial German government should come to a clear and full understanding as to the grave situation which has resulted. And in the letter, it continues to be expressed how deeply hurt the U.S. is when William Jennings Bryan says, "The government of the United States was loath to believe, it cannot now bring itself to believe, that these acts, so absolutely contrary to the rules, the practices, and the spirit of modern warfare, could have the countenance or sanction of that great government. Regard to the sacred freedom of the seas." As the battles continue in the Western Front, a new battle, the Battle of Festubert, occurs. The British successfully attack the Artois region of France. This is the British's first night attack. The attack is preceded by a 60-hour artillery bombardment, but the troops advance just 1,000 yards while suffering 16,000 casualties. Meanwhile, the French occupy Hethsausen and the Russian left drives the Austrians onto the Dniester. The Battle of Gallipoli, a campaign that took place on the Gallipoli Peninsula in the Ottoman Empire, had started on the 25th of April. Today, the Major General W.T. Bridges, who is the commander of the 1st Division's body of the battle, was found and buried in the Royal Military College in Duntroon, Austria.
In the Western Front, the Battle of Festubert continues and the ground is consolidated. The Austro-Germans cross the San and the Russians occupy Ardeek on Lake Van in Armenia. The German strategic bombing campaign against England was also referred to the Zeppelin raids. Although the weather and the navigating conditions of the war made precise bombing very strenuous, these bombs resulted in so many casualties that they got nicknamed baby killers.
Each Zeppelin plane carried about 2 tons of bombs and moved at approximately 85 miles per hour. The British were astonished at such attack. Before the Great War, overseas wars never touched the British shores. Germany was the first to change all of this. Since 1900, Count von Zeppelin built his first Zeppelin plane, and by 1914, they were ready for attack. On the 16th through the 17th, the German LZ-38 Zeppelin successfully attacked Dover and Ramsgate, England.
England. The Battle of Festubert continues. The British advance to the Lequinc-Leroux-Bethune road. On the Eastern Front, the Austrians drive Russians from Sinois, and the Southern Front, the Turks attack at Gabatip. Later, the Battle of Gallipoli gets much more complex. The Turks launch an attack at the landing of Anzac Cove, otherwise known as Gabatip. The goal, to push 17,000 New Zealanders and Australians back closer to the sea, 3,000 men. On the Western Front, the British still continued to make a strong attack and advance into enemy territory in the Battle of Festubert. On the Eastern Front, von Mackensen, the General Field Marshal of Germany, of the German 9th and 11th Armies, captured Przemysl against the Russian attackers. It has been an awful week for the Central Allies, and the Central Powers continue to put up a fight. This week, blood spills on the battlefield. Thousands of men lay restless in forever-ending sleep, adding new names on the list of casualties. See you next week.